Hi, everybody. Welcome to FNS Wrestling Podcast. I guess we'd call this a bonus episode. We're back down in the basement before our normal Friday night or Saturday recording. It's because we watched AEW's Wrestledream, what was out on Saturday night, and coincidentally, it is Thanksgiving in Canada, so we kind of have the time to sit down and talk about a show that I think was quite notable, yes, without saying too much. A lot of stuff happened that we will discuss here. Just a quick banter. We did go for, well, you didn't, you were working, but we went for a Thanksgiving lunch at your aunt's place, ate a bunch of food. I came home with a just off screen over there, but new but old.
It's there.
New to me, iMac, so I can maybe start doing things not on your mother's MacBook anymore, but we'll see. I just got it up and running last night, made spot for it in this tiny little studio that keeps getting more stuff in it somehow, but it looks good over there. Nice little station. Also got a new mic from Amazon sitting in a bag right there. Surprise, surprise, right? So
I honestly didn't know what it was, but that makes sense.
That does make sense. I'm back into messing around with audio gear, especially since I now have a new iMac to play on. So anyways, I don't want to waste too much time. Anything you want to talk about before we get into this show?
I don't think so.
So we started it a bit late. You were at work, got home at 9? So I did watch the pre-show, right? So I can briefly talk about that. I was distracted at one point for the main event.
But it was so interesting, though.
The main event, so I basically started out by saying this was the pay-per-view of people spitting on other people, yes?
Yeah.
I would say like 5 times, half a dozen times.
Will Washington.
Will Washington, it's right. Come on, Will Washington. So much spitting. And I'll mention a few of them I know in my notes, but I think I even may not have mentioned all of them. It seemed like a lot of spitting. And one of them was very notable.
The first one, I think it was.
But it basically, it was a tough act to follow after the first spitting for everybody else. Because
although they did follow it.
They did follow it, but it was nowhere near as impactful. Anyways, so I thought for a pre-show, the 0 hour was probably better than average. I think my favorite match was the opener. I was telling you it was Cage.
You said... on
0 hour.
Yeah.
Cage and Atlantis Jr. And so Cage wins the ROH TV title with a drill claw. I sent you a clip of that.
I actually did see the clip come up too.
I sent it while you were working of me just recording it off the TV screen. So super high quality. But drill claw nonetheless, he does win a very meaningless title, yeah?
Pretty much. I mean, I think it was kind of cool when Joe had it and he was double TV champion. I think Fletcher did some good with it, but other than that... Yeah, and we'll never really see it, right? So no. Anna Jay took on Harley Cameron, and it wasn't good, but at the same time, it wasn't the wreck it could have been, right? So that arguably, selfishly, I hoped for.
Me too. I was pretty excited. I was half jokingly telling you, oh, it's starting. I'm hyped to watch it, but there's nothing glaring. And Jay won with a gory bomb, which usually looks pretty good.
It's one of the 2 things you can do.
Right. I kind of enjoyed Rico. He was there with MXM, right? As they took on and lost to the Acclaimed. At least MXM feel like an actual tag team, and yes, they're kind of like, I don't know if comedy is the right word.
So are Outrunners.
So, but you need people on the roster like that, right? So I don't really have a problem with it. They feel like they're an actual tag team.
No, they feel comedy, but also still a step above their WWE acts. I feel like they were absolute goobers in WWE.
I don't even remember, to be honest.
When they were with Maxine.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like they were just... Like, at least here, they're, like, somewhat prominent and somewhat competent to the point where they're feuding with the Acclaimed. Because the Acclaimed are, like... That'd be like them feuding with, like, the New Day in WWE, like, legitimately. And I don't think they do, so...
No, they don't.
At least they're a bit of a step above.
The bigger one, Madden, he has a bit of a presence to him. I'll say that.
I never really liked him, but...
But anyways, Arrival and Mic Drop, Acclaimed win. I thought it was a solid match. The main event was Outrunners and the Conglomeration, which was O'Reilly and Cassidy taking on the premier athletes of Nice and Area Davari against the Dark Order of, with the Dark Order, Silver and Reynolds. So this is where I was kind of getting nachos ready because I was timing nachos for you as soon as you got home so that we could just get into the main card. But I thought it was a pretty solid tag match. I didn't get my full attention, but the baby faces win. The Outrunners hit their double power slam. I was showing your mom, I'm like, do you remember the video game Outrunner? And she's like, not really. Like, it was an old, like, car racing driving game. She goes, oh, yeah, I do. So I was like, those guys that's their gimmick, basically. They're 80s guys. So anyways, that was the end of that. Then we turned to the main show. You were hoping the opener was the triple threat with Takeshita. Basically, every match that passed that wasn't it, you were growing less and less patient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't have to wait as long as All Out, so.
No, but you were, better be the next match, and then you were disappointed every time it was not. But anyways, the opener, they chose to go with Hangman Adam Page taking on Jay White, who had Juice Robinson in tow for this one. And, I mean, I'll talk about our thoughts at the end, I guess. So we'll go into some of the action here. White goes for Page's eyes early. It kind of fires up Page to land some clubbing shots. And then White with a drop kick to Page's knee, and that becomes a focus of the match, sort of off and on, I would say. He goes back to that knee when he needs to. Page hits a follow-away slam into the turnbuckles that look good. Page dominates for a while. White manages to escape the buckshot lariat attempt. White goes back to the knee, hits an exploder into the corner, DDT and a deadlift German a little bit later. Page with a Death Valley driver on the apron. He catches a White Hurricane Rana attempt and power bombs White onto the apron. And then again on the steel steps. Page takes his belt off, and this is where White spits at him, right? They're on the ramp, and just a giant loogie is stuck right to his midsection, I guess. Disgusting.
It's overly noticeable.
The worst spitting spot I can remember. I mean, it wasn't in the face, so I guess there's that, but it was something else. Page takes a swing, White ducks and nails. It looks like if it was an atomic drop,
it was a shin breaker.
But it was basically,
on the edge of the ramp, which is gnarly.
Looked great.
That would hurt like a bitch.
Just like the sharp edge across both shins, right, from being dropped. It did look painful. Dragon screw and a huge Uranagi from White back in the ring. Then we get a cool final sequence where Page goes for the Deadeye, tries a low blow, but instead White hits a suplex. Blade Runner's countered into the Deadeye, but Page's weak knee sort of took the brunt of it, and he can't quite make the cover. He attempts another buckshot lariat, but again, the knee is kind of stopping him from doing so. Second attempt, this time White's ready for it. Blade Runner, and pretty suddenly over 16 and a half minutes. So I did not pick this. I'm sure you want to go over that.
I've had a perfect game.
You did have a perfect night, right? So I thought this was an awesome match. It ended up being
I really liked it.
My second favorite match on the show, and that might be a hot take, but
I think it's on Cage Match. I'll say it's the third highest rated.
Okay, that's fair. I don't think, and this is going to be a refrain on this show, the build wasn't great.
I think this one, though, like I said before, was one that was fine as the build was. Just it could have done more, obviously, but because so much has happened before they actually built to the match, I feel like it worked well enough.
Yeah, and we also are the heel-face dynamic just because White as a face isn't...
It's a little weird,
ideal. But
I think it still worked really well, and the short of it is that like what White's going after whoever set him off his path, so I think he'll probably go after Christian next.
Yeah,
because Christian cost him the match against Hangman,
right?
And was the one that took him out. So it's either he goes after Christian or MJF, but I feel like it's more likely to be Christian.
MJF seems busy, maybe.
Yeah.
I like the story they told in this match. White seemed to take his shots while always coming back to the knee, right? And then waiting for an opportunity to hit something. He always tends to
go after the knee, even though like I don't see him go for a submission a lot. I think
it's
just like
wear him down.
But I liked how it came into play at the end. It worked really well, and the way he caught him in the Blade Runner was really smooth. And
Page is working really well as a heel right now, so he looked vicious again here. So I was surprised by the outcome. I'm happy for White to get it. That's a big win for him, right? One of his biggest in AEW, probably.
Probably, yeah. To beat Hangman on a pay-per-view.
Hangman coming off of just a red-hot feud and match and everything as well, right? So I went 4.25 stars on this one.
I agree. It was a really strong opener and kind of like the Okada pack where it's a little slower at times, but just really good quality.
Yeah, I really got into it.
Especially the latter stage of this was really strong, and I really enjoyed it. They're two of my favorites, so I liked it a lot. Not what I would have chosen right at the gate, but still, like, I even texted you, like, it was always going to be a good choice for an opener, just not the one I would have expected to pick.
And I think they delivered, and the crowd was pretty into it. So, in hindsight, a pretty good choice for an opener. What was Cage Match saying for this one?
8.16.
8.16, so we're pretty in line with that. I mean, right around there anyways. Really good match, for sure. Then we go into the AEW Women's World Championship match. It's Mariah May defending against Willow Nightingale.
This is definitely a match where the build suffered for sure. Or suffered for the build.
100%. And that's
we'd already discussed.
I'm going to be repetitive with that sentiment tonight, I feel like.
That's fair.
But so reminder that Willow got this shot by winning a 4-way this past week on Dynamite. And we get a nice May dropkick early on as Willow was in the midst of doing some cartwheel things to get away from May. And May's missile dropkick always looks good, right? Or sorry, just shotgun dropkick at this point. Then May gets into some fish hooking, but Willow takes her out with a pounce. Willow then, just to show, I guess she's fired up and really into this match, is biting Mariah May's ear at one point. We did clothesline, super kick, spine buster from Willow for 2. May blocks a powerbomb attempt and hits a German suplex. Willow hits a nice cannonball, but then goes for a moonsault, misses. The attempt looked really good.
It did look good, yeah.
But no water in the pool, as they say. May hits a missile drop kick for 2, goes for Storm Zero. Willow tries to counter it. May hits her with a headbutt. Willow fights back, hitting a big lariat. Willow hits a Death Valley driver into the corner for a 2 count.
That always looks awesome.
Willow catches the Hurricane Rana attempt and looks for an avalanche powerbomb. May somehow avoids it and just kind of hits a sudden Storm Zero for the win.
Didn't even usually she kind of lifts them up a bit and does the stump power driver. Didn't even look like she lifted her up this time. It still looked awesome. It always looks gnarly. It's just, I don't know. It's so sudden.
So she retains after 11 minutes. I thought this was a good match that, like you were already saying, could have been better with a stronger build, and I would argue 5 more minutes of action too.
Yeah, for sure. I thought it had good intensity to it, but not a lot of heat.
Yeah, I agree. And they're both really good. There is a great heel-face dynamic here, I felt like.
And the talent is there in ring for sure.
But they failed to capitalize on it. If a lot of this feels like they were in a rush to get these matches on this show for some reason.
I think it's also because, and I saw someone else say this, they had to stack the cards for Grand Slam and the anniversary kind of back to back. So while we had a typical month between pay-per-views, which usually hasn't been a problem, because they had to front load both of those, some matches like this took a hit to the build.
Right.
I think having May defend against Yuka in hindsight was unnecessary.
Yes, I agree.
For example, something like Ospreay and Fletcher versus the Bucks, I think was a good choice to have because that was a great match, first off.
Yes.
But they built to that, and that build kind of serviced
what happens on the show.
Build to this match,
correct.
Right? To Ospreay's match on this show. So that's
agree.
something that's fine. But I think having stuff as great as it was too, Danielson Okada kind of hurt the build to Moxley a little bit. That match is also one that has a fine build. But just for example, the build could have been even better if we weren't taking a week off to have him face Okada, right? But the prime example being May defending against Yuka for no reason, who just came back randomly. If we had Willow maybe win, why don't we do the 4-way match that we just got? Maybe don't have Saraya in there and do it on Grand Slam. So then Willow's already got her shot. Now we have a couple more weeks to further that match. Or just don't have May have a segment and have Willow interrupt or something. Just don't have May in a pointless title match, because that match was wasn't it 5 minutes or something like that?
It wasn't long.
I remember being short, right?
Yeah.
So stuff like that, I think, definitely hindered the build to this show.
Yes.
And stuff maybe for White and Hangman, with White having been legitimately injured, maybe they couldn't have had him come back sooner.
Probably.
But if they could have, I think then the Jarrett feud was a waste of time. You know what I mean? There's different things they could have not done, and this show might have been, the builds at least would have been better. Yeah,
they could have used some time they used for other things to further build some of these.
Exactly,
for sure.
Yeah.
So I thought good action with May looking kind of like the resourceful champion. I went 3.5 stars.
I agree. I think it was good, but there's definitely a better match in there. Just from build and in ring, I think definitely there's something better in there.
What is Cage Match saying?
7.38.
So they're a little higher, but pretty close to us. Yeah, and I think these two could be the future of this division, right?
Yeah, if we want to talk pillars of this division specifically, it's them. I guess you could still throw Baker in there, maybe Hayter, honestly.
And it's weird to say that May is the future because she is the reigning champion now, but
she's going to be
still very young.
She's like MJF, where she's kind of already hitting her stride very early.
Yes.
But they could keep her around for so long.
And Willow's a talented baby face and just a different presence in the ring and whatnot. So I think she's a big deal as well.
For sure.
Good match, could have been better. Then we move into the AEW TNT Championship match, which is Jack Perry.
Also a weak build on this one.
100%.
But
I'm glad you're saying it because it's my first note.
This one, I feel it wasn't rushed into existence. I feel like they set it up a week or two ago and then forgot to build it more. So I remember them doing the parking lot segment, which might have been last week. I don't remember specifically, but it didn't feel like the women's or tag title matches to me, where those definitely feel rushed into existence and where I was asking for them to just push it to the next show, right? This one, I felt like they did set up with not maybe enough time, but ample enough time to get an okay build going, and then they kind of didn't.
I know.
And especially because the setup to this match was pretty shallow, with Shibata just being challenging him, and then Perry beat him up and accepted, right? So there really wasn't much to this, and I guess it was to get the post-match stuff, but like
I know
with Garcia,
still
I don't even.
I agree. So it is Perry defending against Shibata. And Perry escapes to the floor early to avoid Shibata with his heel tactics.
I do love Shibata.
Me too. I thought he looked great in this.
He did.
Shibata tires of this, heads to the floor himself, and Perry kind of gets a cheap shot attack at that point. So a little bit later, Shibata's no-selling some chops. We get a strike exchange with chops and uppercuts. Big lariat from Perry. Vertical suplex from Shibata. Both men are down. Perry spits in the face of Shibata. There's another one. Shibata sort of sits in the ring, cross-legged, calls on kicks from Perry. Perry tries to drag Shibata to the floor. Shibata counters with a suplex into the ring apron.
That was kind of cool. That's something I feel like you don't see.
It was different because it's not really on to the apron, right?
Getting suplexed into the ring like that was kind of,
Yeah. Snare trap, but Shibata gets to the ropes. DDT on the apron by Perry. Finishing sequence sees Perry go for the running knee with Shibata catching him, hitting a Death Valley driver. And then a second, I guess it was a Death Valley driver onto the knee. What's that technically?
Ushigoroshi.
Right, there you go. Perry tries to counter the sleeper, but Shibata grapevines the legs, falls backwards. And I've seen some criticism of this finish, right? You want to explain it?
I really liked it. It was Shibata, like he falls back on the sleeper and he gets kind of accidentally pinned.
So people are pissed because he's the wrestler and he should know this.
I guess that's fair.
Doesn't really bother me that much.
I think that
doesn't mean you never make a mistake.
That's a fair criticism, but I still liked it. And my main criticism of the finish is that now it seems like that'll get ignored in favor of a Garcia match.
Yes.
Or something. Because I was saying to you, when that happened, I thought it was really cool. And I was like, okay, that's exactly what I was looking for. Some way for Perry to win because I knew he would.
Right.
But kind of to protect Shibata or make it seem like, not like, because Perry's obviously not an athlete the caliber of Shibata.
I thought Shibata got the majority of this match.
Which makes sense, right?
It does.
Because Shibata is physically way superior to Perry, right? So I figured they had to do some way to get around it and have Perry win. And I thought this was a good way to do that. And then maybe you could have some sort of stipulation match for a rematch, and then Perry could win via shenanigans in that.
Yeah.
But at least more definitively.
Yes.
But I thought it was good. And then obviously after you had there was some sort of standoff, and then Garcia came out for a standoff, and then MJF came out after him. That's when Perry attacks Garcia from behind.
Right.
Perry leaves, MJF cuts a little promo. It was the only thing I can remember offhand was that he basically went back to the pawn shop and got the ring back.
That's right. In Buffalo, I think.
The timeline's been reset there.
Yeah.
And so he went for a ring shot on Garcia, and Adam Cole is back.
Weird. And your mind was blown.
Bolts for the ring.
You're just like, I don't understand.
It makes no sense because clearly this is setting him up as a babyface. And this is what we were saying is the debate around Cole's return was, what do you do with him? Because last we see is he gets injured, obviously, in support of MJF. And through the whole time he's injured, we had the whole thing with the Switchblade match where he was going to wrestle and then he didn't, obviously, because that was always going to be a farce. But more to the point was, through the injury, he still turned heel on MJF at World's End, right?
Yeah.
With the whole reveal of the Undisputed Kingdom. May they hopefully rest in peace. And then he was kind of managing them for a while. Remember, they tried to keep him on TV, but I think the travel was stunting his recovery, so they stopped. And then they had, obviously, MJF was at that whole time too, and then MJF comes back as a babyface, which made sense because let's not forget, MJF was a babyface for most of his title run, right?
Yes.
And he,
strange as that is to say,
did that brainbuster spot to Cole at Double or Nothing, right? And that made sense. That was debated as, is that the write-off? Because when Cole comes back, now then since MJF has turned heel again as he was here, so now the dynamics somehow reverse, which I do think AEW tells good stories, but there's no way you can swing that.
How do you explain your way out of this?
How can you possibly swing that?
I know.
Because if you isolate 3 moments and you show them to someone, you take World's End, Double or Nothing, and this, makes 0 sense.
0 sense.
Because this is, if MJF turned on Cole, makes perfect sense. And like, I liked when MJF was mocking him. He's like, what are you going to do? And he started limping. And then he's like surprised when Cole's bolts into the ring. That was a nice touch. Again, works better if the dynamics make sense. Yes. But this is like so weird. And then it also begs the question, is Cole going to ignore his own group?
Right. If they were not a thought here.
No, but And that's what makes it so weird,
and
too.
I just remember you and I leading up to this going, oh, when Cole comes back, I guess they're just going to have to act like the MJF thing never...
And I would honestly prefer that.
Because we were kind of like, what can they possibly do? So I think they just have to walk away from it. No,
I would think that would have made more sense. Because like I said, the Double or Nothing segment could serve as somewhat of a write-off. And the weirdest thing is, Cole's here with his own theme, which he might have used the Double or Nothing. I don't remember. But... the Double or Nothing, he still came out and he was doing the whole devil thing. I think he had the mask still, but you could tell it was that he's got his own shirt. He looks like babyface Adam Cole, or not even babyface Adam Cole, but pre-UK Adam Cole. So it's very, very strange to me.
It was,
Aside from that, I like the match because I enjoy me some Shibata, and he was in control for most of it. And he's just got some simple but effective offense. I liked it. And Perry was good in the burst he got. And obviously, again, I said he's not on Shibata's level in ring wise, so it made sense the dynamic of this match. I like the finish. I hope something comes of it. It doesn't seem likely.
No,
but I liked it on face value.
I enjoyed this match too. I think Perry's title run hasn't been, I would call it a little underwhelming, and it's not.
Yeah.
I think his performance has been fine. It's just what's been booked for him could have been stronger.
And I'd argue his character work was just as good, if not better, before he won the title.
And he needs some important feeling opponents in matches.
Yeah, and no offense, it's not Shibata.
I thought this was a good match and there's a couple of these where I say I don't know if it needed to be on a pay-per-view. Felt like this would be like a Dynamite main event one week or something, you know?
Yeah.
I went 3.5 stars. I don't know.
I agree. I think if he was defending against Darby Allin again, not saying he should, because obviously Darby's doing other stuff, but someone like that where he has history, or B, just star caliber. That makes sense for a pay-per-view. Like him versus Darby all in for a TNT title match, and that feud, that felt worthwhile. That was good. Shibata, feels like a Dynamite defense for me.
That's what I thought.
Kind of like the Leo Rush match. Like that was good, but that's clearly a TV match.
What did Cage Match say about this one?
9 point. Wait, sorry, that's the next match. 6.21.
So we were above them.
Yeah, I'd probably rate it. I'd probably rate it about the same as the last match, all things considered.
Which was what, a 3.5? Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
That's what I said. Yeah, so you recapped all the MJF and Cole stuff. So it was kind of interesting because
confusion.
Normally it's also just match, but they took the time for this and another segment a little bit later.
One of them being advertised. And this is also, again, what they did at Double or Nothing this year. So I don't mind them doing that because then it's another notable happening for the show, right? So and that's what you kind of want. So
I agree.
I like that. And then it sets up TV for next week.
And I think that allowed the crowd to catch their breath before this match. It is the AEW International Championship. Will Ospreay defending in a triple threat against both Ricochet and Konosuke Takeshita, our boy. Only. This match was crazy, man. So
I've already watched it 3 times now.
So I've watched it twice now, and it's not one of the ones I needed to watch again because I was falling asleep. It's just because
you gotta watch it
as I was recapping my notes and stuff, I was going, man, this is crazy. So I'm gonna try. It's not everything. Go see it if you haven't. Ospreay,
go see it if you have.
Yeah, that's true. Ospreay, Ricochet immediately work together and target Takeshita right as the bell rings, okay? And then that leads to, I don't know if Takeshita left or got knocked out of the ring.
I think he got knocked out, and then they do their acrobatics routine, then he came back and drop kicked them both.
Right, so it leaves Ricochet and Ospreay.
I've watched this again.
They do a whole bunch of like tit for tat, flipping around kind of stuff, right? Into their like the superhero landing. To a stalemate right as Takeshita comes in and drop kicks both of them. Takeshita sends Ricochet into the steel steps, Ospreay into the barricade outside now, DDT to Ricochet on the floor. Takeshita takes out a table, sets it up on the floor beside the ring. It would stay there for quite a while.
Much like the Ospreay MJF match, very well paid off. Was the table spot?
It sat there for a while. He didn't have any trouble setting it up either.
No, with ease. By himself. Takeshita fears no tables.
Ricochet with a Sasuke special, but Takeshita catches him. Ospreay comes in with one of his own to take them both out. And it was literally
there's a moment of contemplation where it's like, is he going to catch them both?
And maybe it was like, why don't you try? And if not, like I could see them saying that too.
Just the way it landed, I don't think so.
It would be crazy if you could do it.
That would be insane. Kind of like a Hater's double suplex spot on Dynamite.
That was nuts. Ricochet hits a flatliner on Takeshita, which at the same time causes a DDT to Ospreay. All three are on the apron. Oscutter attempt. Ricochet catches it. Ospreay springboards off Ricochet's back, but Takeshita's there to catch him with a Death Valley driver and then a Meteora to Takeshita for Ricochet. So the action starts picking up. Like the second half of this match is bananas.
Yeah.
Basically. Spanish Fly from Ospreay on Ricochet in the ring for a 2 count. Stormbreaker attempt, but Ricochet counters into a Hurricane Rana for 2. Hidden Blade is caught. cool like backslide bomb
driver. I love that move.
By
It's
Ricochet.
really cool.
Looked great.
It's just really cool, and it's like
You don't
again,
see it.
it's
really.
like that roll up, but adding some oomph to it.
Absolutely.
Because the pinning predicament ends up the same.
Yes.
But it's just got some oomph on
More
it.
fun getting there.
Yeah.
Ricochet up top, 450 misses, powerbomb by Ospreay straight into the Styles Clash. Like doesn't release the grip, right? Just
No, he's done that before, yeah.
Takeshita makes the save. The action is just getting crazy at this point. Takeshita with the bastard driver, I've heard it's called, that like pile driver with the
legs hook tombstone.
German suplex and a blue thunder bomb to Ricochet for a
I
near
remember
fall.
it was so he does the bastard driver German to Ospreay, and Ospreay kind of does the adrenaline rush roll through, and this is a spot they did in the Revolution match where he kind of powers through and he nailed Takeshita with a hidden blade. But here, Takeshita was ready. He clocked him with a lariat. And then, Ricochet went for a springboard move, got caught midair, and then spun into a blue thunder bomb. It was epic. That's one of those flurries that's Takeshita.
And the crowd is like going berserk at this point.
Those are the flurries I think are what gets Takeshita, like, that's what gets him noticed. Because I noticed when he did that double combo to Ospreay, the driver, the German, when he did that in the Revolution match, you can hear the crowd just
he does stuff
getting up into it
so quickly and powerfully and cleanly linked together
and consecutively.
That you're just shocked by it a little bit. Ospreay Ricochet slap hands, momentary alliance again. Tee off.
I love
Takeshita.
Takeshita did a lot of great facial expression work in this match.
Subtle but awesome.
Yeah, just like the way he smirked when he took them both out after the acrobatics routine earlier. Just like the look of like disbelief and like
and
panic
he yelled
when
something while they were double teaming him early on too. That was funny.
Like the panic when they're like agreeing to double team him. He's kind of just like,
he's great.
Crap, I don't know. He did some great work here.
Takeshita eventually with crazy forearm strikes for each of them.
He does it better than anyone else, and I will never get over it.
I think it was Ospreay accidentally super kicks Ricochet, right?
Yeah.
Os cutter on Takeshita gets caught. Lariat to Ospreay, but he flips and lands on his feet, of course.
Just wicked fast.
Not the most impressive landing on the feet in this match, but still crazy. Spanish fly, Ricochet flies in with a 450, right? Crazy. Springboard Doomsday device from Takeshita and Ospreay. Nope, because Ricochet lands on his feet from being on a man's shoulders and Doomsday device.
It was pretty nuts.
It was crazy. Ricochet then hits German suplexes to Takeshita and Ospreay. Poison Rana exchange from Ricochet and Ospreay. Takeshita grabs them both and hits a double German suplex. So again, just sequences of insane stuff happening super fast with no mistakes.
Yeah.
By everybody, right? Ospreay hits a Hurricane Rana to Ricochet off the top, almost into a powerbomb by Takeshita.
But then they kind of save it.
But Ricochet somehow rolls through it for like a victory roll.
So it's really debatable whether that's a screw up or not.
I know.
Which I like, because then at least it looks fine.
Correct.
If it is a screw up, there's really no issue with it.
Ricochet shooting star to Ospreay. Takeshita boot to Ricochet kind of stacks them up and he tries to
No, that was the power drive knee. What are you talking about?
Oh, sorry. He tries to pin one or both of them, right? With no success there. Ricochet teases, what's his finisher called?
Vertigo.
Off the apron. But Takeshita...
Where the table is.
Yes. Takeshita counters and does hit the bastard driver. He kind of jumps and turns to go through perfectly, right? Through the table with Ricochet. So Ricochet is kind of out of the picture at this point. Back in the ring, Ospreay hits Takeshita with a very sudden hidden blade. Takeshita kicks out at one, and Jack is fired up at this point. Because, right, you're a little bit nervous.
This is like where you can tell it's coming to an end.
Another hidden blade happens, but Callis pulls the ref out of the ring, or as... Nigel
said the ref slipped out of the ring.
Slipped out of the ring, which was very
Nigel,
funny.
Honestly, I'm enjoying him a lot more lately. I find
now that that whole run.
There's stuff like that. Remember during the entrances too, Callis was saying that they're meat puppets.
That was hilarious. I don't know really where that happened, but
that was during
we were both killing ourselves.
That was during one of their entrances. Yes. And it was like he was talking about them. Someone was saying like they
like a wrestler's body had input on something.
Yeah, like you're saying Ospreay should be a good meat puppet. Yeah. That's really funny. That's the Callis I like.
Callis has the screwdriver. He goes to hit Ospreay with it, but Ospreay catches him. Ospreay teases a tiger driver.
Ospreay has like an absolutely manic look on his face. I really love that.
Teases the tiger driver to Callis.
I also like that too.
But a man in a hoodie is here to attack Ospreay. It's Kyle Fletcher. Takeshita power drive knee connects on Ospreay, and
it was the Wagamama. He took the knee pad down.
Is over after 21 unbelievable minutes.
Pretty bananas.
So with a different finish, and I'll talk about it, and a bit stronger story coming in, this could have been 5 stars for me.
I think it's
not
close.
quite.
I like the finish.
The action in this was simply incredible. We saw things that like pretty much nobody else can do a lot of this stuff, which is what makes this special, right?
And everything was so fluid, and I feel like everyone played their part. It wasn't a lot of lulls between two guys.
And if you want to say that Ospreay and Ricochet are similar, well, then you've got Takeshita in there hitting like amazing power stuff and strikes that just look devastating, right? Everything is so crisp. Incredible sequences where like you don't have time to breathe on this, right? So just the second half of this was kind of staggering. I'm not sure what 3 other guys you could put in a match that would do this. Like Pac is in the back of my mind.
Pac is probably the only one I would add to this just to make it absolutely insane. And
I already watched this again. I will watch it again. Probably it will make a list. It was my match of the night.
It'll get in for sure. I absolutely loved it.
So I went 4.5 stars on this one before we get into the sort of talking about the aftermath of it.
I absolutely love this. It was pretty much everything I want to see, and hats off to them for making Takeshita look like an absolute beast.
He did. Everybody looked amazing,
and to the point where you were like, almost is he booked too strong to win? That's what I was thinking.
Right? Like, oh man,
because like they kept having double team spots where he just killed both of them, but like absolutely looked like a monster. Ricochet and not Fletcher, sorry, Ospreay did their thing. Yes, just like back and forth, and the sequences where they're all involved doing stuff, it's just crazy, and to come up with all that is just crazy. And finally Takeshita gets his.
He did. You didn't have to punch any walls.
I did not have to punch a wall.
He got his moment.
I'm so happy he got that because it's been so long, and especially I feel like this year I've been just waiting for it to happen because for a while now we've been saying since he got with Callis, it's like this is gonna be his time. He's gonna break out, and it took a while to get here. It's been so long, but I'm happy we're finally here, and we already talked about it, but just. I love Takeshita so much. He just feels special in a way. Yes. And just because I feel like we've watched his entire mainstream career at least.
He came out of nowhere, impressed us right away, and has never, ever disappointed us.
I've never been mad with a Takeshita match other than I think it was the one where him and Hobbs were against Sting and the one where he had against Jericho this year. Mm-hmm. But neither of those are in any way a reflection of my thoughts on Takeshita. But in terms of him, I've never been disappointed with his work. I've been wowed time and time again. And so I was saying to you, like Cassidy's run with this belt was amazing. I can only imagine what they could do with Takeshita if they just have to do this right. If they drop the ball at this, I will be so disappointed.
He should only lose when it's time for him to go for a bigger title.
Absolutely. I think you have to treat this like what the Intercontinental title is supposed to be. Like
pedal to the metal, let's go.
Gunther with Intercontinental title type thing. I'm not saying it has to be that long, but establish him, and then I want him to be ready for the top title by the time this is done. And the dream would be, I hope he enters the C2 as champion and give him Okada's belt too.
The fact that he's so the whole thing. Big and powerful, and you can put him in a match with these two guys and have him keep up and like add his own element to it is amazing.
He's amazing. I think in ring, one of the best in the world. I think character work is obviously not 100% there as a foreigner, but that's what Callis is there for, right? Yep. So I think he's amazing. And so with the finish, I know you don't love it as much. I like it, and I think the most important thing for me is that this is huge for Fletcher.
It is, because he hit the Tiger Driver, right? To
that, Ospreay. But like a feud against Ospreay is huge for him. They just need to do that right.
The problem for me comes from the reveal and of him being the person and the turn just isn't super surprising and doesn't like have.
Oh, I think the hood was stupid. I don't think you needed that at all.
It could have been helped by like they could save it depending on what Fletcher says and Callis says, right? Fletcher could cut a really good promo. I think it has
to stem from Grand Slam at least because Callis no doubt has been talking in his ear the whole time when Ospreay's out of the family, right? Because Fletcher's still faded. But then I think losing the tag title match when like Fletcher was clearly willing to do the screwdriver thing and Ospreay didn't, and then they lost. Yes. I think that's clearly going to be a sticking point for him.
But the group and Callis have just been kind of wishy-washy, so that's hurt it a bit for me.
Which sucks because the group started out so strong. So I remember when like Takeshita and them they were winning match after match against Omega and Jericho and whoever. But I like the finish. I'm good with it, and more so, this was like the one result I needed.
That's right. And amazing match.
It was such an amazing match, and just like the result, I'm just like this is my favorite title, and it's just I'm so happy for.
So if you're like looking at cherry pick or whatever, this is the one.
This is the one.
If you only have time for one match on this show,
and
this is
the one. If you haven't seen a Takeshita
crazy
match,
to say considering the main event on paper. True.
The main event was pretty good too. But.
So next, just to let the crowd cool down maybe, or to not put another match right up against that, which is probably
smart.
I'm
looking at cage match and I'm like, how is this a cooldown?
They go to Swerve and Nana, right? So basically this was Swerve teasing a turn on Nana.
Swerve looks killer. He's got like this white robe cool. kind of thing going on, and then his hair was like kind of like two ties, kind of like Kofi's done before.
So he's kind of agreeing with MVP has said about Nana in the last 18 months or whatever he's saying, and he's also putting over MVP's ability to sort of help former champions and just black athletes in general. And so you get this tease like, and then Nana's looking nervous, and then it comes down to, but Nana is family, right? So Swerve can forgive all of that. Shelton Benjamin, who's out with MVP, obviously kind of takes off his jacket and gets up in Swerve's face. The referees kind of separate them, and MVP leads Benjamin away. And you could hear MVP, which I like, saying things like, we're only going to fight when we get paid and stuff like that. So I think that's...
and I like that MVP also was kind of not... Like, once Shelton's kind of going on the offensive against Swerve, MVP never does that, because you can see he's still trying to keep the window open until it's too late. And I feel like now we build to a Dynamite match between Swerve and Shelton, which will be epic, and that's where Lashley shows up, because no Lashley here.
And Swerve is cool as hell, and I like Shelton in the match.
I like that they put over Shelton too. Like Swerve gave some praise to Shelton, but
Swerve is going from like an all-time feud and an all-time match to now feuding with MVP and Shelton Benjamin. Like that's not exactly keeping him hot.
I feel like but you have to kind of cool him down too. And I think Lashley is
gatekeeper to Lashley, right?
Lashley is huge as well.
I guess. So anyways, just another segment put in there. And then it's the 2 out of 3 falls match. It's Hologram taking on the Beast Mordos. Another match I was really looking forward to. We love the Beast, right? Mordos is
absolutely
our
love Mordos.
Guy.
He's awesome.
So quick action here out of the gate. First fall comes in under 4 minutes when both men head to the top. Mordos teases the Avalanche Gorilla Press Slam he does that looks amazing. But sorry?
The Mother Effing Bomb, is that
what it's called? And he lands on his feet?
I don't think that's what he calls it, but isn't that Mike Awesome's move or something? Or someone does it. I think Mike Awesome.
Could have been. Hologram counters with a Hurricane Rana. Hologram back up top. Walks the rope, dives into a crucifix bomb, and that's how we get our first pinfall. Then things start again. Pounce in a tornado. The one he does through the ropes by Mortos, where he's too big. He barely fits through between the two ropes.
There's a brief pause where he's flat, then he does like a quick spin.
Crazy.
I don't even
and
know
always lands with lots of impact.
On his feet, usually?
Yes. Press slam to Hologram on the floor, back in the ring with a release belly-to-belly suplex into the turnbuckle, then a spear to Hologram as he hangs in the Tree of Woe. Hologram hits a Poison Rana, tries to lift Mordos up but can't do it. Mordos catches him with an Argentine backbreaker and a powerbomb on his knee. Discus lariat, so that sort of combination gets him the pinfall after 9 minutes, and we're even up at 1. What a surprise going to 3 falls. Never happens.
Never would have expected it.
Hologram is sitting on Mordos' shoulders, remember, then hops up to stand on them before delivering a Poison Rana on the apron.
That was pretty nuts.
A couple of them looks like he was slipping too, and he just recovered every time. Mordos gets his knees up on a Hologram 450, counters a Spanish Fly with a Discus Lariat. Mordos hits his Avalanche Gorilla Press Slam, and weird choice here. My only real complaint, that exact same sequence that got him the second fall. So exactly the same thing. Sure. Hologram kicks out this time. Crucifix bomb, portal bomb, as it's called. Hologram wins.
Which is like that Torture Rack Blue Thunder bomb, which is pretty
looks
awesome.
Cool. And to hit it to a big guy, too.
Yeah, that was impressive.
Hologram wins, keeps his winning streak alive.
As expected.
After 17 minutes of total time. Another match with no real build. But
this
awesome
one
action.
didn't have much, but this one was like just kind of, I feel like, to pad out the card in a great way, because it was pretty fun.
Yes,
I don't give one iota about Hologram, but he has some good matches.
He does have some cool offense, and everyone knows we love Mortos on here.
Yeah,
his offense just looks incredible.
Mortos is awesome,
especially given his build, and then at the same time, like that build he has is so great for Hologram as a base, right? To hit cool looking stuff as well. So they had a tough act to follow in the triple threat, even with a buffer of a segment in between. But I thought this was really fun.
I liked it a lot as well, yeah.
Did it need to be on the pay-per-view? Probably not.
No.
But really enjoyable. I gave it 3 3/4 stars. I thought it was pretty cool. Like, I preferred it to a couple other matches from earlier on, if I'm being honest.
I don't know if I did the last one, but I did mean to say 4 3/4.
Okay.
I'll do that.
Yeah,
I think I liked it more.
Yeah.
And just with the finish and everything. But this one, I would probably agree with you. It was really strong, but a fun exhibition. Kind of like what we expected, though. To be fair, at least it wasn't like the women's title match was disappointing. Like I always kind of expected it to just be like a fun exhibition kind of thing, and like that's what it was.
It felt like, yeah, here's a guy from another company, even though they're not, right? And they're just gonna have a cool match and then move on.
Yeah, right.
Good match though. Darby Allin, Brody King is next. So Darby tries a couple of chops early. King just dumps him to the outside. Brody picks him up by the belt buckle, remember, like he's just a wee child.
That was so funny.
Swings him into the barricade and pulls out the steel steps. Darby attacks from behind, sort of jumping on King's back. King shrugs him off. Darby comes back with a suicide dive. Allin dives into just a giant right hand from Brody King. And then remember, he picks up the ring steps and sort of traps Darby underneath them.
And just like stands on it. Yeah,
I don't know how you fake them. Fake that.
That can't be fun.
It's like the steps are across Darby's midsection, and then King walks, like stomps up the steps and stands on them.
That can't feel good.
Crazy. We get some big Brody King chops. Darby avoids the cannonball, pulls himself up, hits a dive to the floor, up top for a coffin drop to the outside, and a code red back in the ring for 2. Hanging sleeper from Brody before he dumps Allin back in the ring. German suplex, deadlift suplex, and a nasty avalanche German suplex for a near fall. Brody eventually gets pushed off the ropes and onto the steps on the floor, quickly followed up by Allin hitting a coffin drop onto the steps.
That was pretty sweet. Whenever he does a coffin drop onto something like that, I'm like always certain the person's going to move just because he has a death wish.
Yes, and he does not mind at all. Brody King barely beats the 10 count after that. Another coffin drop in the ring, and it's over just about 12 and a half minutes. Darby picking up the win.
Yeah, looking at this, that's a lot shorter than I expected.
I went on a limb on this.
You did, but that's fair because I've done that before too, so I can't fault you for that.
It was a bit short. And pretty much exactly what you would expect, right? Even though...
Yeah, Darby got pasted for a lot of this.
Exactly. I picked King to win, but was kind of going on a limb. So King is super believable delivering a beating, and Allin is probably the best at selling and absorbing taking a beating.
He's the best at getting murderized.
So was this good? Yes. Did it need to be on a pay-per-view?
No, but I think it was A, hometown Derby, B, bit of a momentum recovery after Grand Slam.
True.
So at least it kind of served some purpose.
I enjoyed it.
I did enjoy it for sure. Like it was also kind of a good buffer match between things. So it was good for what it was.
I went 3.5 stars. I don't know
7.62 for
Sorry, 7.62?
Yeah.
Pretty close to mine.
I'd give it
actually, that's higher.
I'd probably go 3.5.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah.
And so my question for you then, does Allin carry this momentum and get back to facing Moxley?
Yes, but not the next show.
Saying. If so, when and does Darby win?
I think Darby has to win.
Me too.
Which is why I don't want it to be the next show.
I
think if it's the next show, Moxley...
This is one that they can slow burn.
Yeah. And while Moxley doesn't need to have it for a long time, I think he should have it for a decent amount of time.
Danielson didn't have it for a long time.
Exactly.
So
and
not to spoil the final match or anything.
Right, but we're already saying, does he face Moxley? So I feel like we're past that point. But like, for me... I want something kind of akin to Samoa Joe's run. Like, Samoa Joe's run wasn't crazy long, but it felt like he kind of got to stretch his legs a bit.
Yes.
And really, like, work as champion. Because I think his work as champion was, like,
amazing,
near flawless. And I think Moxley could do some great work. Because I really, really enjoy his character right now, right? Like, we've been loving everything they've done. So I think that's why I would love for him to have some time with it. Like, that's why I've been saying at least until World's End. That's my minimum bar. Because that's 2 months, which I think is a fair minimum. I would even go as far to say I think they're doing the Grand Slam show in Australia in February.
Yeah.
I could do that.
Yep.
That could work, right? So
no rush is all we're saying.
No rush, because I think Darby is absolutely next in line. I think after, and I'll talk about it in the post-match of the main event, but I think he's definitely being built up to be Mox's conqueror, and not even just off of having to witness the post-match angle, but also because... Like I was saying even after Grand Slam, I think the vision is Darby finally getting his moment as a pillar because he's lost to Moxley time and time again. He always gets his ass kicked, looks great, and looks resilient, but he loses.
And it's time for another one of the pillars to...
Right. MJF had his shot.
He did.
Perry and Guevara are not at that level.
No.
Darby's the only other one in the pillars who's reasonably there right now.
I agree.
So I definitely think it will be his time, just... not the soonest. I think we need a couple people to step up to Mox beforehand.
I agree.
I would even wager Orange Cassidy.
Oh, yeah?
Because remember they had the interview segment with Jerry Lynn somewhere on the show where he was like talking up Orange Cassidy, how great he is and whatever. And I thought that was weird. Orange Cassidy was also out in the post-match angle of the main event.
He was in the second group that came out.
Kind of weird as well.
Yeah.
So I think, and given the history when Mox is the one to end his amazing title run that I loved, right?
Yeah.
And I believe that they sit at one match apiece because remember then Cassidy won the title back after Mox got injured and he lost to Phoenix.
Right.
And then they had the rematch at Full Gear. So I would wager they could have their kind of grudge match for the world title and I think Cassie's at the point of his career where he warrants that. Because I think there's definitely a time where I'd be like, that'd be frowned upon, right?
Yes.
But I think Cassidy is like a quality world title challenger. He'd be a good, what's it, like a
placeholder challenger?
Yeah, right? Yeah. So I think he'd be perfect in that role because that's what we need.
Yep.
So I think he could be at Full Gear perhaps.
Yeah.
And then you do someone for World's End. I don't know. Maybe, no, I was going to say Eddie if he's back, but I don't think he's going to be back yet.
Oh, I forgot about Eddie.
Yeah, I know. But anyways, this was good. And we'll talk more about that stuff after.
AEW World Tag Team Championship match is next. It's the Young Bucks defending against Private Party.
They had a really cool package.
They did. It was Amazing Red, right? And
I was like, if this match had been built up, I would love
yet again
that package so much because that package in isolation, if you look at the package before the match, it's like they're 100% winning.
Yes.
Right? Because it was like their trainer and he was talking about they need to get like serious or something like that. And it was awesome. I really liked it. Like it hyped them up and it felt... Again,
this should have been like, part of the build, not the day of the match.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's another one where...
If we had waited to build this match and then we had that, I would have loved it so much. I still liked it a lot here, but it feels wasted.
It hurt the match because there was no world where Private Party's winning.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because, again, I really like them. It's just, but that's why I want better for them, right?
So we do get that pre-taped video with Amazing Red.
It was really cool.
It was cool as their trainer giving them advice. We also see that Stokely Hathaway is in the crowd, possibly recruiting or whatever.
Wasn't it Top Flight were there
we
too
also
as well,
see
right?
Top
their
Flight,
whole crew.
Andretti and Layla Gray are all there as well. So lots of interested viewers in this.
I'm not sure if Top Flight's like the whole group now or if it's like...
And again, you're trying to be like, Private Party's important because lots of people want them to be affiliated with them. Well, but why? At first you show them, hey, they win matches and they're beating progressively better teams. Now I understand why people want them.
I mean, they beat Bear County, so.
That's right. That's it. Anyways, the Bucks try to walk away early. Private Party follow them and get super kicked on the ramp, and that gives the Bucks control for a minute here. Private Party fight back. Zay, they call him Zay exclusively now.
It's weird. He's still Isaiah Cassidy to me.
Maybe they're getting away from the whole Cassidy thing because it kind of feels like he's the focus of this whole thing.
A little bit. It's also because I remember they called him Brother Zay for a while when he was with the Hardys.
But I just think they don't want the Cassidy with another Cassidy there.
That's fair.
So anyways, Zay holds the Bucks as Quen hits a flipping senton off the entrance tunnel. Not as spectacular as it sounds, really. It was kind of a safe.
Remember, Zay took the brunt of that.
He did. Zay looked like he took the legs, basically.
That's the heel turn spot.
Yeah. Bucks blind tag leads to a step-up sliced bread from Matthew, double super kicks to Quen, and more for Zay. Zay hot tag, he dominates the Bucks with a nice flurry. Crazy action on the floor with sentons, 450s, Poison Rana, and a Destroyer. All four are down. The Destroyer didn't look amazing. I forget who hit it. They ended up putting a lot of impact on themselves. It was Nick on
Quen.
Yeah.
They didn't get the full rotation.
Great near fall and a successful gin and juice. The crowd really responded well to that. Super kicks from Private Party, and they actually hit the more bang for your buck to Nick, but Matt breaks up that pinfall attempt. Doomsday dropkick on Private Party, followed by the TK driver on Quen, the EVP trigger on Zay, but surprisingly, Zay kicks out. I thought it was kind of over at that point.
I thought they did a good job of at least kind of building their chances towards the end, and because they did take a beating. Again, they never had a shot because they didn't build.
And again, if the story was better and they're this competitive, I start to go, oh man, maybe they're.
And I almost had that kind of moment, but
it's kind of not there for me.
Yeah,
because there's no world. Anyways. Matthew gets Quen on his shoulders, and Nicholas super kicks him off of them from the apron, and then in the ring, another EVP trigger attempt fails as Zay kind of like they crack their shins together, right? He moves.
That's
and,
always a spot, right? They move
together. Yeah,
from the EVP trigger.
Zay with the flurry of shots, but Matt catches him, quickly shifts him into position. Was a cool little adjustment.
Yeah, he got him really quick. Yeah,
successful TK driver as the Bucks retain after almost 16 minutes. So.
I thought this was strong. Like, I enjoyed it.
For sure.
It suffers from the circumstances.
Exactly what we were saying. Like, not enough time spent building Private Party into a credible threat.
I think it's a better build in like 5 minutes away from being awesome.
Yeah.
Even though they're 10.
We expected lots of cool tag team action. And the Bucks were going to retain, and that's what we got. I thought Zay got a ton of attention in this and looked really great for stretches.
Almost looked like they were going to turn on the in the post match.
At the end, we were waiting. Right?
I was, because that's like the worst thing you could do right now.
It looked like a setup for that, but it did not happen.
Because I think that's the absolute worst time. They're starting to get momentum,
right?
And there seems to be stock put in them. And I think to have them split before they get their moment together would be such a waste.
Unless it's that stupid, and WWE makes that mistake sometimes too. You give them momentum because you have a vision of one as a single star.
I don't think I see that either, though. Like, I mean, they might, but personally speaking, like I was even saying, I feel like their split would go about as well as best friends.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
Again, where's
very
Trent?
Similar to that.
You know what I mean? So I feel like you could have them split at least after they lose the tag titles.
Yeah.
But not now.
Yeah. It'd be like Dante was forced to go singles, and he had amazing matches and stuff, but he wasn't.
He was never gonna last.
Right. At least at this point.
Yeah, he just blows people away.
Another kind of TV main event feeling match.
Yeah.
But delivered in ring.
It was a slight notch below a real pay-per-view banger.
I went 3.5 stars for this too. Like, there's a lot of good but not great stuff.
I agree, and it's
delivers
so
in
close
ring.
to great too.
It's the stuff around it that needed to be fleshed out better. All right, so then we move into the penultimate match on this show. A little bit of the washroom break, I think, for
arguably my least anticipated match.
ROH World Championship. It's Mark Briscoe defending against Chris Jericho.
I definitely have paid attention to this match because I'm really struggling to remember anything.
Jim Ross joins commentary, stays there for the remainder. You did notice that in the moment.
Did notice that.
I remember. Strike exchange backs Jericho into the corner. He hits a early code breaker, barely gets a 1 count, and then the action heads out to the floor. Briscoe delivers a suplex on the floor, gets back on the apron, hits the cactus elbow. Briscoe with a flipping senton off the apron to Jericho, who's seated in a chair. We get Big Bill involved now, a boot to Briscoe. Bill gets out a table before Orange Cassidy comes down, neutralizes Bill, and they sort of battle to the back, so they're gone. Later, Briscoe is thinking about a J-Driller until Jericho hits a suplex to the floor off of the apron. Always looks kind of cool.
That is always a nice spot. It's simple, but it's always effective.
J-Driller attempt. Jericho grounds him and locks in the walls of Jericho instead, right in the middle of the ring. Brian Keith now appears out of nowhere to hit Briscoe with a baseball bat while the referee's distracted. Rocky Romero, because
they set that up on Dynamite.
That's right. Rocky Romero shows up, battles Keith to the back, so they're both gone as well. Briscoe hits a dive that sends Jericho through a table leaning against the barricade. Froggy Bow attempt, but Jericho catches Briscoe with another code breaker. Successful Judas effect and a J-Driller from Jericho for a very near fall. Briscoe fires up, Redneck Kung Fu, Death Valley Driver, Froggy Bow, J-Driller of his own. And Mark retains after 15 minutes. We said he hits the J-Driller better because he's a real dentist. That's it. Sorry. That might not make sense to anyone, but it amuses us. So the story of this, right, was that Mark really wanted to hit the J-Driller because Jericho had invoked his dead brother, Jay Briscoe. Yeah. And then Jericho's trying to hit it to sort of rub it in kind of thing. The only problem, I guess, is that story involves Chris Jericho, right? Which makes it automatically less interesting for us.
Yeah, I really didn't pay a ton of attention to this compared to everything else. This is kind of my break for sure.
And so this got 15 minutes, and one of my things is chop 3 of this off and give it to Willow and May.
Or
right? Make this 12.
Scrap this match entirely and give time to the women's and the tag match.
Right. And give another 5 to Ospreay and Takeshita. I don't care.
Give minutes to matches that need it instead of having this. This could be main event the ROH pay-per-view, and I don't care.
There you go. So fine
Which
match,
should be in December or something.
This belt means nothing. Jericho is basically like a mid-card kind of comedy act at this point.
Yeah.
So another match I don't think needed to be on this show, and I don't think it delivered in ring. I went 3 stars.
I was going to say, 3 at best. If I wanted to be mean, I'd maybe go another quarter, half
Same,
down.
I was contemplating. What was cage side?
6.29.
6.29. So they liked it a little better than us.
Yeah.
They were like 3 1/4, which no. To me, 3 1/4 is like good. So it was not good. Main event time. It's the AEW World Championship. It's Bryan Danielson taking on Jon Moxley. If Danielson loses, it is his last match as a full-time competitor.
It's the last rodeo.
I think is how they're very careful with their words, right?
Yeah, I think it's
not that he won't wrestle anymore.
I think it essentially is a retirement, but then if they want to bring him back for a special match, say Omega or something, then they will. But I feel like it's for all intensive purposes a retirement because I've seen already a bunch of thank you Danielson posts and stuff like that, right? Like I think it's essentially the same thing, just with a caveat to do a special match or two, right?
They have outs to bring him back.
He's not washed yet. He's just super injured, man.
And needs some surgery probably. So as Danielson is posing on the turnbuckles during his entrance, Moxley attacks. They fight to the outside as the final countdown continues to play. Moxley wraps a cable around the throat of Danielson. Danielson grabs a mic, smacks Moxley in the head with it, wraps the cable around his throat in return. Shafir hops on Danielson's back. She gets involved a few times along the way here, right? Looking menacing. Psycho knee with the chair. The bell hasn't even rung yet, so the bell rings. Psycho knee right after that for a near fall right away. Danielson stays in control till a thumb in the eye from Moxley and a pile driver through the announce table. Mox pulls Danielson's tape off of his upper back and neck and bites his back. We get a spider German from Danielson, a curb stomp from Moxley. Danielson counters out of a Mox submission to hit a pile driver of his own. Danielson's on fire for a while. Shafir gets involved again. This time the referee catches her and sends her away. Danielson avoids a paradigm shift, eats a butterfly suplex, then comes right back with a Psycho knee for a 2 count. Head stomps, label lock, but Moxley gets to the rope, heads to the floor. Danielson dives but gets caught, takes a paradigm shift on the floor, and Shafir had pulled the mat back earlier, right?
Yeah, so like a big old chunk of it.
It was a paradigm shift onto the actual concrete. Submissions and counters, we get a regal plex by Danielson and another Psycho knee for a near fall. Moxley nails a lariat and another Death Rider. Danielson kicks out at 1. Moxley implores him, don't make me do this. Danielson spits in his face, Will Washington, and slaps him. Gotch style.
The indignity when you say that.
Gotch style pile driver on Danielson, then into the bulldog choke. Danielson struggles, fights it, he's fading, and that is it. Danielson's career is over. He is out. The referee calls for the bell.
Who called it?
So I wanted to analyze the match before we go into the aftermath. So I don't like this match as much as a lot of people do, but I still think it was a very good match.
I think it's really strong. It's not the most, like, I don't know if gripping is the word, but just like in your face action, but
I think my problem is I feel like they rushed both of the stories involved in this, and it made me care a little bit less than I should. Like, Danielson just won the title, has barely defended it. They didn't hardly pay any attention to this, like this is his last match ever, possibly. They really didn't lean into that. They did a little bit on the 0 hour, finally. And then Mox is recently back too, and although I'm really interested... This all happened
in the span of a month.
Right, I'm still really interested in Mox, but like their intentions and motivations haven't been thoroughly established other than Danielson's holding them back from whatever, which is fine. But again, just another 2 weeks month of really cool storytelling, and this should have felt super dramatic and important, and it didn't to me.
The larger pay-per-view schedule's starting to get at them a bit. It tends to a little bit, right?
Right. I think that's exactly the problem. So really good action, really good storytelling, but just missing the high level of drama it should have, considering like this is an all-time superstar's last match, barring, other matches, as dumb as that sounds. So as it stands, I preferred 2 matches on this card to this.
And that's 100% agree.
Based on the talent and the stakes, this should have been it.
I disagree. I think I was always going to like the triple threat more.
Fair.
That's just my jam. But I agree. This should have been better. And I think I understand doing this in Washington for Danielson. I think that's great. And I like that. And
but then you should have backed up the starting point of everything.
Yeah. Doing all of this in his hometown is ballsy. Yes. For sure. But then I think we should have booked...
The crowd did not know what to do at the end.
It's a ballsy end for a pay-per-view. Yeah. I'll talk about it. But I think they should have booked Full Gear in Washington and foregone Wrestledream. I know Tony Khan does the show as an homage to Inoki, but I think you could have left it at last year's Wrestledream as like a standalone even. Mm-hmm. Like then it's like that's the Inoki tribute, right? Mm-hmm. That's their standalone show. You had like Ospreay coming on for a special match, right? You had stuff like that. And then I think Full Gear again, if there was no Wrestledream here, the women's title match would have been fleshed out. The tag title match would have been fleshed out. Perry would have had a better challenger. Mm-hmm. We could have just built to Perry Garcia, and that probably would have been way better. This would have gotten more time to flesh out. This was by far the best build.
Yes.
And I still think it was really good. It just had a lot more potential for sure, or just needed another week or two, right?
Agree.
I think there's a lot more that could have been done with some more time. And so I do think this was a strong match, and I did really like it in parts. It just did suffer from their pay-per-view schedule. And I think that's the main takeaway from this show is that I think a lot of the matches are strong, and we'll talk about this later, but it wasn't like All Out where they kind of overcame that full force. I feel like they kind of succumbed to it a little bit. In some regards.
So this, again, very good match. Should have been an instant classic, I think, if it was built and booked right. I went 3 3/4 stars.
I agree. I don't think it's quite in the upper
We're pretty
echelon.
tough to get 4 and above for us. It's got to be good.
I do think it was still really good because both of these guys are both really good, and so I still liked it a lot, and I liked Shafir's interference there.
Good match. So Aftermath now, quite a bit happens here. They take the world title and put it in a gym bag, basically, right?
I think like not discarding the title, but like there's still business to be done, kind of thing,
like they're not here to celebrate. It's going in a bag. They're still working, sort of deal, right? Shafir hands Moxley a plastic bag again, but here comes Wheeler Yuta and Darby Allin to run this new group of whatever they are.
I think Darby had a chair, right?
To run them off. Darby slowly starts to turn around, and Yuta hits Darby with the Psycho knee.
That was also a cool touch.
Pac drags Darby into the corner, and they have duct tape, and they tape him basically to the middle rope.
Yeah, I love it. And like Claudio and Shafir, whatever, just like duct taping this dude around. It's so messed up.
Danielson is getting up, and this is where Mox hands Yuta the plastic bag.
That was also
which was a cool
awesome.
touch as well.
And like, even though he's essentially turned on Danielson now by way of Darby, the confliction on
next level,
Yuta's face the whole time. Yeah, well, and also
it's one thing to kick him out of a group. It's another you're gonna murder him basically.
Again,
right?
Not like this is the first time we're doing this. This is the second time now, and I know there's gonna be people mad at that. This is because like so many people were mad about it the first time when they choked him with the bag, and so then Yuta's choking him with the bag, which is crazy. And like, what was he saying? He was saying
kids
something
are gonna be killing other kids with bags. Now.
because schools are gonna allow that to happen. But like, then Yuta's telling him like stay down or something like that, right? It was Yuta's like basically pleading him to like stop, like just stay down or right, because they just want him to take him out and keep him out of the way, right? So I love how Yuta sold this. He's done really well, I think, acting wise.
So Darby's helpless. The others attempt to come to the rescue. The first wave is Private Party and Jeff Jarrett. So the A-listers.
I don't know why. Just the visual of like the roster repeatedly coming down and getting like shoved off by the Blackpool boys.
Like Plants vs.
Made
Zombies.
me laugh. Yeah,
it's one wave of easy.
Not because I think it's dumb. I really liked it.
Yeah,
like I just like that. All these roster guys are coming in to help Danielson, which does make Danielson look good because he's that locker room guy and he's
retired
everyone
now,
loves him, right? Yeah. And it also adds to the menace of this group that they're holding off everyone and that everyone's trying to stop them. They're suffocating this dude with the bag.
Right.
And so I thought it was really jarring, but also really cool in a way.
Claudio then wraps a chair around Danielson's head, right?
Yeah.
And they get a running stomp to that. So that brings out, this is the second wave, Cassidy, Garcia, Cole, Hook, and some others as well. And they finally
that's enough.
Get them to sort of exit. Blackpool leaves the ringside area. So Danielson gets a stretcher out of the arena as the ring crew are trying to help Darby Allin get free.
This time he actually gets stretchered instead of them like carrying him out like they did all out.
The crowd thank you, Brian, and the show comes to an end. So fairly dramatic.
It's such a crazy
dramatic ending. So yeah, overall thoughts on this show.
Well, do you want to talk about anything more about the finish?
Yeah, go ahead. You start it off, and I'll piggyback off.
Well, so I think it's going to be very controversial, but I really enjoyed it. Like, no, okay. So there's better ways to phrase that. I did not enjoy a man being suffocated with a plastic bag, but like, I really liked it, and I saw some guy point out too that like this is why Moxley felt he was the only one that could do this, because now he's basically murderized this guy on national television for the second time for like a guy who you could characterize as his best friend, if that's what you want to call it, right? Or at least a close ally in this tight-knit group that he had. He's basically expelled him from it and then just brutalized him twice. And now he's got this menacing group, and now which Yuta's seemingly in.
Yes.
And so if someone else were to retire Danielson, like Darby or whatever, nothing would really change. But Moxley came back saying that AEW is different and that it disgusted him, that he needed to change it. And so now this is going to inspire someone like Darby, who's there, who watched it and was at ringside after when Danielson's getting stretchered. That's gonna
and who disagrees with Moxley's vision,
right?
And is like, it's kind of like NWO, WCW.
This is gonna be the catalyst for guys like him and Cassidy and maybe even Hook to step up and kind of take the future,
the new breed
right?
versus the Millionaires Club.
No, it's not. That's horrible.
Yeah, that's a bad.
That's
story.
horrible. But like, I do think it really works, and I really enjoy it. So I'm excited to see where Mox's run goes. And like I said, I think Cassie's the perfect next challenger as a placeholder.
Definitely going to be interesting on Dynamite because it's a pretty big change in things, right? You've got a new champion. You've got this faction. Danielson's gone. This new faction is kind of running show.
I think one big positive of the show, as we go into overall thoughts, is that there's a lot to look forward to on TV. Because for as confusing as it is, Cole and MJF, that's a big point. Obviously, the Callis family stuff. Fletcher's turn has to be discussed.
They have a champion in their midst now.
The whole main event,
same one, I guess.
The whole main event.
Yep.
Aftermath, right? That's a big talking point. I think even something like the continuation of Swerve and MVP saga. That'll be something, right? So there's a lot to go on. I think even Switchblade's got another direction, right? Whoever's next, which should be Christian, I think. But there's a lot to look forward to, which I think is good, and hopefully that means an upswing for TV.
Yeah,
we have, I think, like a month and a half until Full Gear, so pray that's going to go well.
I hope so. Is that one of the ones where there's like group matches or no?
No, I think the only time we have to worry about like a group match would be Double or Nothing with the Anarchy in the Arena, and then December should be spent with the C2.
And I guess the last thing to talk about is no Shane McMahon.
No Shane McMahon,
which is like a big relief.
I thought
it was
worried.
Happening.
I was worried for sure.
Me too.
So I mean, at that point, are we jinxing it for the next show? I don't know. I feel like no, because I feel like if it was gonna happen, this is the time to do it.
I hope
when he wins the title.
I hope the moment has passed for sure.
I think so. I hope so.
Overall, I really like the show. I'm not putting it in the A range, but pretty close to that. I thought in ring, the only thing I didn't really enjoy was the Jericho Briscoe match.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff that was good but not great, and then a couple things that I thought were fantastic.
It was mostly the fault of the builds that hurt the show. Because the only one I didn't really care for in ring was probably the Jericho match.
So lacking some drama and build to a few of them, but I mean, a match of the year contender in the triple threat. A 4+ star match for me in the opener. The main event was really good, just not quite at the level I'd hoped. So I went with a B+ for this show. I thought it top to bottom, delivered in ring. So if you're just somebody, especially if you're somebody who's not following the week-to-week product and maybe you're just going to check out the pay-per-view, I think you got like pretty good value. My only complaint is I know how much amazing it could have been if several of the stories were a little bit better fleshed out, but
absolutely
still had really a lot of fun watching it. I went with a B+.
I agree. I think it's just shy of the A range. I think B+ is fair, which will be boring because it's a lot of the same.
Still not annoyed I paid $50 for it.
No, it's still a quality product and it's really good. And a lot of notable talking points, a couple of great title changes in my opinion, and a perfect game on my end.
Right. Yeah, so, you ran the table on this one.
I did.
How many did I get wrong? A couple?
Let's see. It would be opener.
Yep.
And I want to say it's just opener and Brody King, I think, for the main card. Oh, and the main event.
Right.
Because you went with Danielson.
I did.
So that's 3. That's 3 on a, let's see, 1, 2, 3,
9,
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's not only a third wrong.
Me.
That's not bad. I will never forgive Cody Rhodes for screwing up my Perfect Mania game, though, because that was crazy.
Funny. That was
because that's like a 2-night card, and I was pitching perfect, and then Cody was the one who screwed up.
Wrestling is very predictable sometimes.
That's why I hate Cody Rhodes. That's why we don't like him.
That's right. No, that's screwed up. I have a long history. But I guess that's going to bring us to the end of talking about Wrestledream. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you're just sort of checking us out by fluke or for the first time, we do put a weekly flagship show, we call it. We're up to, 221 episodes where we break down Raw, Dynamite, NXT, and anything else we feel like talking about, trivia every week, news and rumors. So check that out. Really appreciate the support. We'll see you back here on Saturday for episode 222. And until then, everybody, take care.